he was back in Singapore during his last vacation, where I told him I was going to get him help with a psychiatrist because his anxiety was just getting worse, and he was really, really thankful for that. So when I brought him to see a psychiatrist, he was prescribed Lexapro, which is an antidepressant, just within 10 minutes of the consultation. I even explained to the psychiatrist that Zen doesn't live here and that he would be going back to school within the next 12 days. Irregardless, he even increased his dosage, quadrupled his dosage from 2.5 mg to 10, which is unheard of. And I asked him, I said, are there any adverse side effects? And he just said, no, many kids are on it. It's nothing, Zen can be on it just temporarily, just a few months, and his anxiety will be okay. And then he just says he may have insomnia and loss of appetite. But Zen's insomnia definitely got a lot worse. He was just not getting any sleep at all, But his so the doctor just prescribed him with antihistamine, okay, but his appetite was okay, so that was good. So 3 weeks after going back to school, I lost him. Yeah. Well, I didn't know better at that point in time because we have all been brought up or educated that, you should trust the doctor, they're professionals. So it didn't dawn on me to actually check on the adverse side effects of antidepressants online. So it's only with Zen's passing that somehow I was led to doing more research online, and that's when I discovered that in the US, FDA have this very strict mandatory warning for the dispensing of antidepressants to youths who are 25 and below, and it says that in the first few weeks and months of being prescribed, they have this high risk of suicide ideation. So if I had known of this, and I would at least be able to make the decision whether I should let him start since he's only one more term left, or I could actually fly up, and be with him, make that choice, the informed consent. And it's also frightening to find out that in Singapore there is no mandatory warning or the conspicuous warning on the packaging. Zen's prescription was prescribed in this clear plastic bag that GPs would normally dispense using, right? And which, of course, in the original packaging, the one that was given to my son, there was no warning at all, except for perhaps, when I went back to check, the pamphlet will have this long list of contradictions. But who is really going to read up on that, Unlike in the US, it's a very conspicuous black box warning on the packaging as well as on the pamphlet. Yeah.
I'd just like to add on to what Elaine has said, that my son was also prescribed with antidepressants, and because I was on antidepressants as well, I was the one who knew that there were suicide ideations because the doctor did warn me about it previously. So when I asked my son's doctor if he would suffer the same, the reply was, you're on it. You're on Lexapro yourself and you're doing fine, aren't you? I think as a parent, right, who is already at a stage of desperation, when you are encountering a situation where you are on the brink of losing your child, you will resort to anything, without you would just want to have somebody to trust, to believe in, and want to know that, okay, there is help, that somebody is going to be able to save your son. And I think that is the fundamental of the mistake most of us moms did, the desperation of wanting our child to be saved, and as a result, it ended up worse. We're not dismissing that antidepressants would help people. I'm sure it has helped many. It has helped me, for that matter. But I think when it comes to a suicide ideation, right, the important thing to remember is that for a child, it is a lot worse to bear than for an adult.
Well, I would say the psychiatrist should have been more forefront, to list out all the adverse side effects, right? And work very closely with the client or the caregiver, right? And have this open conversation where if you notice anything erratic about your child after being on the antidepressant, you must call me. So they have to also monitor the dosage. In my son's case, you do not quadruple his dosage over a 12-day period. Yeah. So because if I have been given all such information, I can make an informed decision whether I want to put my child on it or not. Zen was not in a high-risk position at that point in time. It was just GAD, Generalized Anxiety Disorder. But I lost him because I was not given the full information. And very importantly, I implore on MOH and HSA to please look into the guidelines for all medical doctors and also the guidelines to have mandatory warning, conspicuous warning on the packaging. I think that is very important.
I would also like to implore on doctors to really, really consider, and there are already so many youths being lost. There must be, you must have that responsibility to understand that these side effects might be a bit too strong, and as parents, we might not be aware that that would be the case. But as a doctor, you really need to stress it upon to the parents, that your child is very, very young. The side effects might be very, very huge, versus an adult facing the same side effects, where we have the understanding and the mindfulness to know that whatever we are feeling right now is due to medication and not because we really want to end our lives, but it's just the pain that we're going through, the side effects of the medication that's making us have all these irrational thoughts. And doctors should really emphasize it to the parents that your child might not be able to take it. To be honest, right, depression is something that is really a silent killer. Like for myself, if I had not gone through depression myself, I would not have noticed all the changes. Like I would not have paid that much attention on all the changes Evan was going through. He was 11, and a lot of people whom I speak to will say, oh, he's just going through puberty, it's a phase, it's a teenage phase. But it is when I notice that he starts to become more irritable, more sensitive, he tears all the time, and he starts to give up on everything that he loves to do, that I realize that that is not normal. That is not puberty, that is not the teenage phase that he's going through. So yeah, it is really a very invisible killer, and you really need to spend a lot of time really understanding your child, speaking to him, having open conversations with him, especially when they are exposed to all these things on social media, right? Where everybody is trying to look better than the superstars. They're trying to all the different benchmarks of what being good enough is has changed because of social media, and everybody is trying to catch up. Like for Evan, he was a very intelligent child, but because he was on medication, he couldn't focus in school. His results just before he passed for his math wasn't good, and that alone really killed him because he was doing so well before, and he couldn't take the results that he got when he received the math results, and that was one very important factor also that ended his life. Although as parents we do not have any expectations on our child, but because society has expectations on them, and it's an entire society, we never said that you have to score very well, but he felt lousy when he's comparing his results with his other friends, and these are the stress that young people go through there now that I don't even remember myself going through that kind of stress when I was that young. Yeah.
For those who are below age 21, the full frontal cortex is not fully developed yet. So therefore, it's very hard for them to process any situational triggers.
Imagine they have to cope with their physical change, they have to
puberty.
Yeah, emotional changes, starting to fall in love with a person of the other gender, and things like that. It all happens at right about the same time, and it's really a lot to take. They all mature a lot faster than what we have experienced in our lifetime. So Yeah, it's just an overwhelming load of changes that they're going through during this period of time.